Hi, I'm Tim, and this is episode 2 of the MyFinder podcast series. We now have video. At MyFinder, we're developing AI assistive tech for the blind and visually impaired. You can download our app for free from the App Store. It uses AI to find and recognize objects, read text, or stream video direct to a volunteer, all in real time. It is free, so we'd love for you to download it. The project was born at the University of Oxford, won competitions such as Microsoft Imagine World Cup and Cambridge Entrepreneurs. We're now a social startup. Our aim is to help as many people as possible spread awareness and be at the forefront of assistive tech. Today, we're going to be talking with Reece and Sophie. They met at the University of York in 2014. They're now living in London as an interabled couple. Reece is a researcher and Sophie a marketer, and they use their TikTok presence to provide a space for the BVI community to come together and spread awareness in a light-hearted and fun way. They are present on TikTok as @blindandblonde, and they enjoy 1.6 million likes and 25,000 followers. We're going to hear them talk about why they chose TikTok, what the platform offers the BVI community. We'll talk about what it's like handling a full-time career alongside a social media presence while being visually impaired. We move on to life at university and navigating Freshers Week without sight. Today's episode is great for young people and the importance of remaining positive and independent, showing that you can do whatever anyone else does, and Reece is a fantastic example of this and what can be achieved. I begin by asking Reece a bit more about his condition.
Hello.
Hello.
So how have you been today?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, the sun's
Same
out,
old, same old.
so it's quite nice.
It's decent weather considering it was snowing yesterday or the day before.
No, it's so crazy.
I thought, because we had such a crazy sunny weekend last weekend?
Well, it was just the Sunday was so warm.
Yeah. And I thought we were in it for the long haul now. I thought
Yeah.
this is it, like summer is upon us.
Yeah.
And now,
And then it snowed the next day.
now it's gone. As long as the weather gets better now that pub gardens are open again next week,
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
You prefer the sunny weather to the cold weather? Is that because it's a lot of hassle walking around as someone visually impaired?
It's a weird one because actual like bright sunshine is terrible for me because like, as part of my condition I've got photophobia, so like light really affects my eyes really badly, as in like kind of bright glare. So yeah, the perfect weather for me is like not specifically sunny, like where the sun isn't low but it's bright outside. So yeah, I'd say that kind of nice like warm spring, but like not with beaming sunshine out, I think is my ideal.
And without ice on the paths and
Oh
snow.
god, yeah.
Yeah.
No, ice is rubbish. Like, and I've heard loads of, because I don't actually I don't use a guide dog or a long cane yet. Well, I don't use a long cane very often. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people hate the snow for that reason. For navigating, it's a bit of a nightmare. And yeah, and the winter as well. Just like the way that the dark evenings
yeah.
are terrible, because I can't see anything in the dark. I mean, I can't see much, like, you know, in the light, but I'm completely night blind, so that isn't ideal. I've had my condition ever since I was born, so I've got RP, retinitis pigmentosa, and that's kind of deteriorated over time, and now I think I've got about 5%, but I never really keep track of it.
I'm going to ask both of you, why TikTok? Why are you now on TikTok? Why comedy? I can see that you've started your careers, you're in London, you've obviously got that going for you. So why suddenly on TikTok?
I started being a TikTok consumer last year in lockdown. And actually Reece would always be like, oh, why are you always on that app? It's for 15-year-olds. But the more that you're on it, you realise there's more educational stuff. There's like, I'm more into like the comedy and educational stuff rather than sort of the dancing and all of that. I don't know what's going on there. But we actually found other blind creators, and that really inspired us.
Yeah, because we realised that, you know, not only is there a platform out there also seemed to be a bit of like a receptive audience,
Yeah.
But then equally like a lot of people that were like a lot of people that weren't kind of reacting in the way that we'd like, and still kind of asking like really stupid questions, or
Yeah.
still kind of or still
assuming things about blind people that were
yeah
completely inaccurate. And also when these blind creators would correct them, they wouldn't take sometimes they wouldn't take that as the answer. They'd be like, no, you can't dream. And it's like, but I just told you I can dream.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. What's why we did our first big one was blind morning routine, and that was completely based on stereotypes that Reece has experienced or that we've seen in TikTok comments and stuff. And I think TikTok's just the perfect short video platform to do that.
And in terms of doing comedy stuff, you know, I think we've both always been really interested in comedy. Like myself, like I've done a few different things with the BBC in terms of comedy. I did I wrote and performed a stand-up thing for BBC Ouch at Edinburgh Fringe a couple of years ago, and that was all about kind of being blind and the funny side of that. And it's always just been a really big thing for me, that I think the best way of raising awareness and making people a bit more cool about disability and well, specifically for me, blindness is through comedy.
Definitely.
And I feel like there's so many content creators out there like proving that actually blind people do just live normal lives in the same way as everyone else. And that was what was so big for us, you know, is just showcasing that in a kind of funny way, and turning the stereotypes on their head and showing people that actually, you know, I do have the same sense of humor that everyone else does. You know.
Yeah.
Would you encourage young people, or anyone for that matter, who's in the BVI community, to get on TikTok and spread the message and get their life out there on TikTok?
Yes, absolutely. I think creating content in general is very therapeutic.
Yeah, it's very liberating.
Yeah.
Things like Instagram, like obviously are huge, but they are so visually based, whereas TikTok doesn't have to be. They've got new features like text to speech where it reads out the captions and things like that, and it works with your voiceover. And obviously it's audible. So I'd say it's a brilliant platform to be creative on.
I would say one limitation with TikTok is that it's not always the most accessible. I rely quite heavily on Sophie to edit videos for me with TikTok. But I mean, I just think it is very therapeutic, like, because, you know, even just to be able to get on TikTok and make like a 10-second video where you're just saying, you know, maybe don't say this, like say this. Do you know what I mean? Like, just
and that doesn't have to be edited.
No, exactly.
Well.
There are blind creators on TikTok who don't do any editing at all. They literally just, you know, you press a button and you go, and then you upload, and that's something you can do as well. So I definitely encourage people to get out there and just like, you know, just being seen and like being heard and understood by people can make you feel a lot less alone as well.
Do you call yourselves Blind Talk as a community, or is that just the hashtag? I saw hashtag Blind Talk on there.
Yeah,
we always use Blind Talk, don't we?
Always, every time.
Again, that is just because of the strength of the blind community. Like, if you look on the Blind Talk hashtag, there's actually like loads of different creators.
There's so many videos. It's crazy.
So you're a researcher, Reece. So what's that like? What's it like being a researcher and holding down a career as someone who's visually impaired? So I've been a researcher since I left uni, and I'm mainly in the TV industry. So I mainly do comedy, entertainment, and quiz shows. And yeah, it's been a real learning experience, because I think people often assume that blind people, you know, like blind people don't. People seem really confused, especially on TikTok. They say like, "How do you watch TV?" or like, "Why do you enjoy TV?" and stuff. And the fact that, and then the fact that I actually work in it, I think people get even more confused, because they think it's just such a visual media. But I've never thought of it in that way, because obviously I've always grown up with like watching it and or listening to it, or, you know, having audio description and stuff like that. So for me, I've always been really interested in TV. So taking that kind of route after university and working in it and stuff, it felt like quite a natural route for me. So but yeah, no, I love it. I've loved working in London and kind of doing all that stuff that everyone does, you know, like commuting and all that stuff. What's it been like working from home for both of you? Obviously, Reece has got to do a lot of work, and I'm sure it'll be really interesting to hear about how you actually carry out your work as someone who's visually impaired with largely written content. But also, Sophie, what's it like having working from home next to someone who's visually impaired? Do you have a screen reader read aloud and you're trying to focus on your work and you can hear it in the background, or?
We actually quite enjoy working from home together. I've really enjoyed it, to be honest.
Yeah,
I actually started a new job in lockdown, so it's been from home, like completely over Zoom. But we haven't struggled at all. I mean, with Reece's screen reader, honestly goes over my head now. when I first met him, I thought, how on earth do you know what it's saying? It's going so quickly, but he could have it on loud, and I don't even know. I don't even notice. The only time we have to ever go around that is when we have Zoom calls.
But yeah, in terms of how I actually like physically do my work, I've got, you know, accessibility features on all of my technology. So my phone and my laptop, I use Apple products, so they all come built in with VoiceOver and like the screen reader. So yeah, so that's basically how I do my work, really. That I can access my emails through that. I can you know, surf the web on that. Do people say surf the web anymore? Like,
I haven't heard that for maybe 10 years, but go with it. Years. Run with it.
I do the Googles on there. And yeah, and my job is obviously, yeah, like question writing and researching. So that uses a database, which I can access using my screen reader. And yeah, that's basically it, really. It's all just about Googling lots of things and then inputting it into a database. So
how did you write your essays at university?
Yeah, so same way. So again, you know, if it was actually the physical writing, then all of the kind of Word documents and you know, all of my notes and stuff were all accessible using this screen reader. And then I've been able to touch type since I was little, so you know, all of the typing and stuff is all fine.
And you did your exams on your laptop as well?
Yeah.
Whereas I did mine written.
Yes.
For example.
Yeah, so everything for me was on my laptop, which was definitely a help. I think the most difficult thing was 100% the reading.
Yes, some of the because we both did history, some of the documents were like scrolls.
Yes.
So they would be converted to PDFs, and they're not actually accessible a lot of the time. So that was, you had a reader though, didn't you?
Yeah, well, there was quite a shocking amount like on the reading list that we were given every week, where, you know, you'd go to the I'd ask the library and they'd be like, yeah, there's no accessible version of this. So what was happening?
Yeah, because it's from the 10th century.
Exactly. Yeah. So what would happen a lot is I had readers who I would like meet up with kind of maybe twice a week or 3 times a week. And you know, we'd have like 2-hour sessions set aside where they would then like read out chapters that I needed to me, and then I'd make notes on my laptop, and then I'd be able to access my own notes. So that was, I mean, that worked pretty well, I think, for me during uni. And then obviously if there was any kind of like emergency reading or whatever I had to do, then I guess I got help from other people around. But yeah, it was mainly, quite a lot was accessible, like you know, in some capacity online, you know, because if most of the books had been like digitized, and that was just a case of being like them being sent over to me in advance for of lectures and stuff. So it was I think, again, similar to how I work now, I think there is a lot of organization involved in like making sure you have things, you know, ready to go, so that you're not falling behind other people. You know, like if you have a meeting where you need the notes of the presentation so that you can access it, then like you need to be ready to ask for that in advance and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it takes probably a little bit more organization than most people would have to think about.
What was it like being at university? What was it like being a fresher? Someone who's like listening to this, they're going to want to go to university, want to be able to want to do what all their friends are doing. No one's going to stop them. This is it. This is their time.
I think it was simultaneously like the scariest thing I've ever done, but also like the best thing I've ever done. I think that uni just really opened up this entire world that didn't really feel available to me before. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to do the kind of normal nightlife stuff. And then when I actually got there and met the people in my block, and they were all, you know, so I don't know, like normal and accepting about my disability, and they were all like really up for just kind of having the same experience with me as they would with anybody else. Like it was all about just kind of finding ways around different things. You know, when I was going to clubs, like I would just make sure I was going with people that I could trust, that weren't just going to like run off and leave me. You know, I would have stuff, you know, in place, like, you know, I'd have numbers of people I could call, or like a taxi that I could call if I got into trouble or didn't know where I was. All different things like that. I made sure that I used my symbol cane wherever I went. So, you know, if I ever did get stuck, I could just, like, everyone could see that I was visually impaired, so I could ask like a bouncer for help, or staff, or someone in the club for help. So it was all about, for me, like just getting the confidence to be able to ask for help from whoever I needed to. And yeah, also just kind of just putting myself out there as a blind person. And I think that's something I never did before uni. I think when I was a teenager, I was really insecure about being visually impaired and people knowing about it, and like I would try and hide it from people as much as I could, which got a lot harder when my sight started getting a lot worse. But yeah, and then I think I just kind of, you know, realized, well, I mean, actually I got I did some like counseling with the RNIB before I went to uni, and they kind of helped me to realize, you know, like that it's not something that you should, you know, you have to be ashamed of or whatever. You know, like you can just embrace your visual impairment and make it, you know, turn it into a positive, and make, you know, it's something that people remember you by, and something that, you know, you can, that just kind of add to your personality rather than something that defines you. So yeah, so that's the kind of attitude I took to uni, and I think that really paid off, because I think when I was actually more open about it with people and told people exactly what I needed, you know, if I needed help, if I needed an arm to be guided by, or, you know, if they needed to clarify with me, you know, who they were, because I might not remember their voice from the first time I met them or stuff like that. Just literally like really simple things like that just helped so much, because I think everyone then around me then felt more comfortable and kind of just happy to help. So yeah, and I ended up making like really lifelong friends, and obviously me and Sophie met there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's all just kind of gone from strength since that, really. Uni really did change my life.
Sounds like it's almost was not as much of an issue, anywhere near as much of an issue as it could have been, still having great times, great experiences, and not feeling, did you not feel left out? Didn't feel left out at all then? Because I mean, to be honest, you did more than me when I was at university. I get involved in societies and things like that. So
yeah, I think I got really lucky in terms of the people I was living with, I think, because yeah, I mean, I didn't get involved in that many societies. I think we did do radio, as you say.
Yeah.
We didn't do that till second
year. Yeah.
But yeah, I think as I say, yeah, I did just kind of, I think I did get lucky with the people I was around, because I think that they always kind of made me feel like I was part of, you know, everything. And there definitely were 100% downtimes, because it's definitely easy to look back on something and think it was only ups, but no, there were definitely ups and downs, and like I would tend to get kind of days like once every few weeks where I'd just be like, oh, you know, it's just rubbish not being able to see, and like you know, going out is so much more difficult when you can't see, obviously, or like I felt self-conscious about like going up to people, like, you know, not being able to go up to people and introduce myself, and so stuff like that would be quite hard. But I think it's just one of those things where you just like, as you get older, I guess you just kind of it just becomes less of an issue in your head, and I guess you just kind of become more like thick-skinned about everything, and you stop like caring about what other people are going to think of you, or like, oh, if anyone saw that you just walked into that thing, do you know what I mean? You just stop caring, I think, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And with things like you feeling left out of things, like I'm just thinking about it now, it was kind of second nature for us to adapt anything we did, like any games we played, like any like drinking games, stuff like that. We always adapted it, and it just,
that's true, actually.
We didn't play it if Reece couldn't play it. Like if it was completely inaccessible, we just didn't play it. And there were always ways to get around it. So yeah, I don't think there was ever a time where like, oh, Reece can't play, so goodbye. Like, it was never like that, was it?
No, yeah. It also helps that I was a complete dictator with like the games that everyone. I've always been like I've always been obsessed with games and quizzes and stuff. So like, I was the one inventing all of the.
Yeah, you invented a lot of games.
All of the drinking games that everyone had to play.
So they had to be blind friendly.
Yeah.
But like, the traditional ones, we'd always adapt them. Wouldn't we?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And like, you know, I brought all my accessible. I got my big cards and stuff.
Yeah.
With big cards, sneak those along to Reece. Did you just walk in?
Yeah, exactly.
We
actually had, we even had like a giant beer pong thing as well, which wasn't even a blind thing. It was just from one of those like.
One of our friends just found it and thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't this be amazing?
Yeah, so it was literally like a massive table tennis ball and like massive cups. It was brilliant. I mean, I still missed every time, but you know, I got closer than I wish.
It's the thought that counts.
So you'll bring it all over. So you'd have all your supplies with you, and then you'd also have what, $7.50 bottle of vodka or something, or
that awful. What was that awful? It's not Russian standard, is it?
Yeah, isn't it? That's so, like,
yeah,
it's so awful. Poisoned our bodies forever.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
I mean, that feels like an age ago now. But yeah, Freshers was definitely mad. I mean, to be fair, talking about Freshers Week, like in isolation, that was really like an up and down week because obviously I didn't really have friends like at that point because it was so early on. No, that's the thing, no one did, and like I definitely felt that was definitely one where I felt quite left out of. Like I remember leaving nights out thinking, oh, this is awful, like I don't know how I'm going to do this, because I did actually get like left in clubs in Freshers Week because like no one, I wasn't really confident in telling people yet like that, oh, I actually need you to stay with me all the time, or like I need your arm, and so people would just kind of be oblivious to it, like
not in a mean way. They literally just be like, oh, I'm going.
Yeah, like they would just think, oh, I'm off to go to the bar, and then leave me there, and I'd just be like freaking out. I was like, where? I don't know where I am. But yeah, I think so yeah, Freshers Week like was very difficult, but I think once I kind of got through that early stage, it was then, you know, and as the kind of I got closer with everyone around me and they knew what I needed, it got like exponentially better from them, really.
So you suggest establishing a support network, kind of. So I think I saw you mentioning that you, before you even got to university, a week ahead of time, you moved in a week ahead of Freshers Week.
Yes,
and
I did.
Talk to the services, talk to people. Got yourself settled well before, and that's something you recommend, is that?
Absolutely. Like it's literally all about the preparation. I had such a long list before I got to uni of like, I need all of these things to be sorted. Like I need to know how I'm going to cook my meals. I need to know how I'm going to use this, you know, use the washing facilities. You know, like just everything.
Around the campus.
Yeah, getting around the campus. Like I got mobility training around the campus and to the blocks that I needed, so I could use it with a cane. Yeah, there was just so many things, and then as you say, like getting in touch with the actual like disability services and with all the uni like support staff was really important, just because I wanted to build in as many safety nets as possible, really. So yeah, I did arrive. I got there a week early, and I arranged with the uni that I could stay in my flat. I could move into my flats before everyone else, which was a double bonus, really, because I got to bag all the good cupboards as well. So, but yeah, it was that was definitely a really important thing. It just was being as ready as possible, like, you know, to be able to go around like an empty campus, and
basically you had a head start in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So that it was on an even playing field. Almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
For both of you, that was in York. You're at University of York, weren't you? So what was it like living in York compared to living in London for an interabled couple?
York's a lot smaller, so I think, I mean, I don't know if I'm speaking to you, but I think it's easier to navigate, probably. Like, I could say a street and you'd know it, whereas in London, you know, it's an absolute labyrinth.
Yeah.
And we were in walking distance from the city, whereas now, like, we'd have to get tubes and trains, blah, blah, blah. So it was a little bit more accessible that way.
I think it kind of is and it isn't, because as you say, like, it is smaller, and I could, like, I feel like that was probably my most, where I've been most, like, mobile in terms of, like, I could actually walk by myself kind of all across campus. Like, I could get from our house to campus when we moved out in second year and third year. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And the city was a lot easier to navigate. But then equally, I think the thing is with London is that tubes are so accessible and great that, you know, that has been quite that's quite a like lifesaver as a blind person in London. Like, being if you can just get to your, you know, nearest station and ask for assistance, then you're kind of sorted. Whereas obviously in York, there was, you know, there's nothing really like that.
No,
and obviously because York is so old, there was a lot of cobbly streets, a lot of just like random pavements that were just like jutted out.
And a lot of the buildings didn't have disabled toilets because they were listed.
So
they were like, we don't have them, so we'd go for dinner in one restaurant and then have to go to another so Reece could use the bathroom. Whereas in London, it pretty much everywhere has something, don't they?
I think there's probably a lot higher percentage.
I would be surprised and disappointed if a London place didn't have a disabled toilet.
Whereas I think York, that's the thing, a lot of our favourite places to go were all very, like, you know, quaint.
Like up little rickety stairs.
Exactly.
An old abandoned pub.
And the toilet is just this like shack, like underground.
It's actually advantageous to live in a large city than a small town.
Potentially, yeah. I think, as I say, there's pros and cons, because
Yeah.
I do feel like I am a little bit less mobile in London, in terms of like actually kind of walking. Like I feel like I do less walking, so like independent walking. But then equally, you know, a couple of years ago when I first moved here, I was getting the tube like, you know, 4 times a day, and like by myself, well, as in using assistance on the tube, and all that stuff. But I would often be meeting people at the other end. Do you know what I mean? So there would never really be. I'm rarely like kind of walking unassisted on my own. Whereas I feel like in York, because it was that bit smaller, I did feel more confident to take my cane out and like, you know, and walk between different places.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a goal of mine in the near future, is to get a lot more kind of confident with walking around.
Yeah.
Independently around London, because I think I definitely can do it. It's just,
and also living in a city like London, you see more visually impaired people, like people with disabilities in general, whereas in York we knew all of the people who were visually impaired.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's that one, there's that. There was only like 3 of you guys, and we knew all of them. But in London, it's like quite regular to see stuff like that. So I think it's maybe a little bit more less people don't really look as much, or
it's not as
you don't stand out, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry to dim your shine, but
that's all right.
Don't stand out as much in London.
What's the plan? What's the plan of TikTok moving forward? What's going to happen?
Wow, I don't think we know really. We just want to keep putting out content and making people laugh, and I say raising awareness, but not really. It's more educating people through comedy rather than sitting down and telling them they're wrong, or because, you know, like I didn't know anyone blind before I met Reece, and I think sometimes I take for granted people's questions, because I'm like, how do they not know that? But I live with him and we've been together for years, and so I'm just used to it.
Yeah.
So I think that's our aim really, is just to continue making comedy content mixed in with a bit of education.
Yeah.
If there's one thing you can say to someone who's just lost their sight or is just losing it, what would it be? From either of you, actually. Or maybe even someone, I mean, there's going to be someone listening who has a partner who's losing their sight, so it'll be good to get Sophie's input on how to support them as well.
I think the main thing is communication. If you don't know what they need or how they need things doing, or how they need the support presented, then it can cause problems. Like, I'd say, communication and complete honesty, because I think sometimes people who maybe lose their sight or something like that might worry about the way that it's going to change their lives. But I just think, like, your partner's going to support you, and you have to be completely honest with them about how it makes you feel and what adaptations you need. And that, I just think honesty and communication are absolutely the number one thing.
Yeah, complete openness, and I think from both perspectives in the couple. Like, as I said, for me, like, my life completely changed when I started embracing my disability and just literally telling people exactly what I needed. And, you know, I realized that I was getting very frustrated because I just kind of assumed that people should be doing certain things that they weren't, like, you know, and I didn't think about what my role was in actually telling people what I needed. And I think that's even more important with a relationship.
Definitely.
So yeah, and in terms of kind of advice or what I'd say to people losing their sight, going blind is rubbish. Like, it, you know, obviously, the actual thing of losing your sight is not nice. But I think kind of once you're able to kind of take the grief away from that and view your life in perspective, and like what you do have and what you're fortunate for having, and the positives, you know, such as the way that people can remember you, or like, you know, the whether it's just like really little stupid perks like getting stuff for free, or like, you know, like even just stupid things, if you can focus on those positives.
Going to the front of the line at Thorpe Park.
Exactly.
Every time. Wow.
Exactly. So I think it's all about trying to kind of to try and focus on the positives of things, and communication, and not worrying about what other people think.
That was today's episode. I feel that Reece is a fantastic example of what can be achieved despite having a BVI condition. I hope today's talk was a great motivator for anyone who wants to go to university, or perhaps to move to London for work, or to pursue a full-time career, but happens to be blind or visually impaired. I personally love their humour, and I'm excited to see how far they can go. If you want some more information about Reece and Sophie, do check their TikTok at Blind and Blonde or their new Twitter at Blind and Blonde. That's with an N rather than an and. We'd love if you can check out our app on the App Store. It's MyFinder on the App Store, or you can go to our website and download it from there. That's myfinder.com with 2 R's at the end. It's free to download, and we want both volunteers and users, so please do get involved. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.